And it's not just in Clint Eastwood movies or on the silver screen that we see these two kinds of people. It's everywhere. Edward A. Murphy Jr., he established the Murphy's Law. He said, there are two kinds of people in the world. Those who divide people into two types and those who don't. Gandhi said, my father once told me that there were two kinds of people. Those who do the work and those who take the credit. He said, try to be part of the first group because there's much less competition. And the quote that I want to land on this morning comes from Bill Purden, and he says, there are two kinds of people in the world. The ones that suck the life out of every day, and the ones that let every day suck the life out of them. Let me say that one more time. There are two kinds of people, and this is the last time, I promise. The ones that suck the life out of every day, and the ones that let every day suck the life out of them. And I think, while there's two kinds of people, we can all agree on at least one thing. Life gets hard. I know, deep, right? We can probably leave now. But life gets difficult. You know, the day-to-day grind of jobs, school, family, love, friends, all those things, there's bound to be days that just suck the life out of you. There are bound to be people, whether it's by the things that they do or say, that just kind of suck the life out of you. There are bound to be questions that are asked of you that, you don't have the answer to. And those questions they suck the life out of you. And that question for me is May 11th. May 11th is the day when I get to walk across that big stage in front of the Oklahoma Wesleyan Chapel. May 11th is when I trade 4 years of my life for this piece of paper and countless dollars. May 11th is when I launch into this big world as a young adult now. May 11th is when my status suddenly changes from student to young professional, which is something that I can't even grasp. And I've tried to put that date off in my mind because, to be really honest, it sucks the life out of me. If you would have asked me last week when my graduation was, I would have said, I haven't gotten that far yet. My calendar doesn't go that far. I don't know what May even looks like. Because I put it off. Because I know that there's a May 12th out there somewhere too. And I think that, if we're honest, we all have a May 11th in our head. It's something that hangs at the edge of our mind, kind of just sits there ominously. Whether it's like a change of job or location, or it's graduation day for your kids, maybe a wedding day, maybe it's the day your lease runs up. Whatever it is, we all have that thought that just kind of sucks the life out of us. And why is that? Why do I have a day that sucks the life out of me? Well, I would say that I have a feeling of uncertainty and a lack of conviction. I have a feeling of uncertainty that I will have a job after May 11th. I have a lack of conviction that I'm going to be able to afford all of the bills that I've accumulated. I have a feeling of uncertainty that my life will even look something that I want it to look after May 11th. And I have a lack of conviction that, I'm going to enjoy life on the other side of May 11th. And that sentence that I started with, that lack of conviction and feeling of uncertainty, is the definition of doubt. You look it up in the dictionary, doubt is the lack of conviction and feeling of uncertainty. And so my question that I want to wrestle with this morning is, what do we do when the doubt within us trumps the circumstance before us? In other words, what do I do when I don't believe in the possibilities of my own life? What do I do when the external circumstances of my life seem so daunting that I doubt? So today we're going to look within a story that almost everybody knows. And when you go over it in Sunday school, we're going to go to Exodus chapter 4. I'm going to give you some context to this story. Moses sees this burning bush in the distance. And he approaches this bush, and he notices that it's as if it's like covered in lighter fluid, even though he doesn't know what that is, obviously. But it just keeps burning and burning. And he gets curious, so he goes closer. And then all of a sudden, this big booming voice comes from it and says, Moses, take off your sandals. You're on holy ground. And then the voice begins to rant about all of these troubles and trials and bondages of slavery that God's people are under in Egypt. And he begins to unfold this plan. He says, I want to take them out of Egypt. I want to save my people out of the bondage of slavery. And I imagine Moses is like, yeah, get them out of slavery. This is awesome. And then God says, and I want you to go talk to Pharaoh about it. And he's like, what? Wait, what? Like, that was a really good plan until you said my name, right? And I want to pause for a moment there in that story, because I think that Moses gets a really bad rep for what comes next, right? And for good reason, I'm going to give him the bad rep too, but I want us to imagine ourselves in that story. If you need to close your eyes to imagine it, that's fine, just don't fall asleep on me. Just imagine, like it's 7:48 on a Tuesday morning, and you are getting out of your apartment or your house, and you're carrying your thermos of coffee and your briefcase or your purse. You're fumbling with your keys to get into your car, and all of a sudden you notice that a shrub in your yard is on fire. Okay? Number one, what in the world? Number two, am I like being a victim of like a crime or something? What's going on? And so, like any normal person, you walk over to see what's happening, and this booming voice comes forth, and the only worldly example that I can get of like the voice of God would be like Morgan Freeman. So Morgan Freeman's voice comes from this bush and calls you by name. Like, holy crap, I'm crazy right now. And he says, Lindsay, I've seen the struggles, and this is hypothetical, I've seen the struggles of my people in America. I've seen the bondages of slavery that they're in, and I want to get them out of that. And I want you to march up the steps of the White House and talk to Obama. I think at that point, I might have a little bit of doubt. Might have a lack of conviction at that point. I think I'd be like, okay, where's my property line? Is this even my bush? Like, am I talking to somebody else's shrub? Like, what's happening? Are you sure this is mine? Are you sure this is me you're talking to? Like, I think I'd try to reason with him. I'd be like, dude, well, because apparently I call Morgan Freeman dude. I'd be like, dude, I think you have the wrong person. I just tripped over my feet like 12 times yesterday, and you want me to lead a nation? I don't think so. So this is the context that we enter into the scene where Moses is talking in Exodus chapter 4, verse 1 is where we're going to start. Exodus chapter 4, verse 1. Moses, and I'm going to read this in the Message, because I think it gives a little bit of a fresh perspective on an old story. Moses objected. They won't trust me. They won't listen to a word I say. They're going to say, God appeared to him? Hardly. So God said, what's that in your hand? A staff. Throw it on the ground. He threw it, and it became a snake. Moses jumped back fast. And God said to Moses, reach out and grab it by the tail. He reached out and grabbed it, and he was holding his staff again. That's so they will trust that God appeared to you, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. God then said, put your hand inside your shirt. He slipped his hand under his shirt and took it out. His hand had turned leprous, like snow. He said, put your hand back in your shirt. He did it, then took it back out, as healthy as before. So if they don't trust you and aren't convinced by the first sign, the second sign should do it. But if it doesn't, and even if they don't believe you, then take out some water from the Nile and pour some water on dry land. The Nile water that you pour out will turn to blood when it hits the ground. Moses raised another objection to God. Master, please, I don't talk well. I've never been good with words, neither before nor after you spoke to me. I stutter and I stammer. And God said, and who do you think made the human mouth? And who makes some mute, some deaf, some sighted, some blind? Isn't it I, God? So get going. I'll be right there with you, with your mouth. I'll be right there to teach you what to say. He said, oh, Master, please, send somebody else. So when I read this story, and in the context of where my life is right now, I can't help but feel just a little wrong, a little jealous of Moses. God Almighty comes down and dwells in this bush to get Moses' attention and brings forth his voice to Moses. And as if that's not enough, he then turns a branch into a snake, and then turns it into a twig again. Like, he takes a lifeless piece of wood and makes it living, and then he takes it back and turns it into wood again. And if the first two don't catch you, then he makes his hand, which is as healthy as can be, leprous, and then makes it healthy again. And if those first three don't get you, then he turns water into blood. Like, I start thinking, God, I don't need an entire burning bush. Like, I don't even need a twig. Like, you can give me a lit match, and I will run after whatever you call me to do. Lord, I need a lit match miracle, and I'll run after whatever you're calling me to do. And I get jealous, because Moses has these 4 huge miracles in front of his face. And sometimes I feel like I don't have anything. So, and I think to myself, if I just had one small miracle, if I only had one small miracle, I would do it. And sometimes I think that we pray for miracles and signs and